Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Working on the Dad Pod. We are doing things a little differently tonight. We're still going to start off with our wins and losses, but in honor of the start of college football season, where all the hot take artists come out of the woodwork and make their crazy prognostications for the year, we thought we'd do the same thing. So tonight, parenting hot takes. Bum, bum, bum.
Yes.
All right, but let's start it off with a win or a loss. Alex, what you got for me, man?
So first, I got that I am super excited for the end of our friendship, the end of our podcast, and the losses
Same.
that'll come. I actually don't think the takes will be that. My takes, maybe they'll be that spicy. Maybe they'll get people fired up. But my win for the week, just to get into that, my daughter, and I don't know if your daughter does this, your older daughter. My daughter is very into pretend scenarios and playing pretend.
Mm-hmm.
Does your oldest, do this?
Not so much yet. Like she actually just recaps. She pretends she's at preschool when she comes home and like assigns all of her classmates jobs and crud like that.
Okay. My daughter has a very vivid imagination and has since before she was your oldest daughter's age.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense of like she wants to play like prince and princess, like fire. You know, she plays a lot of this with my mother-in-law. And part of that is because my mother-in-law like tolerates it more than my mom or me and my wife.
Sure.
Because the way these pretend scenarios usually go is she's got something very fixated in her mind. Like, we are brother and sister and we're going trick-or-treating. I'm like, homie, it's August. What is this scenario?
Mm-hmm.
And, but it's been this thing where she not only has this scenario, but if you try to like ad-lib or like get into it sometimes, or like, we should do this or give her advice, she just tells you you're wrong and tells you where you need to be. Like she's giving stage directions.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes very like, pull my hair out and exhausting.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I have repeatedly told her, like, we don't like playing pretend with you. It's not that we're not okay using our imaginations. It's you just kind of stink at it, right? And like we've told her that. But my win this week is, and it really started this past weekend, but my win this week is I just decided, like, we basically kept that line of like, we just don't, like, I will do a lot of things with you. I will play board games with you. I will draw with you. I will do magnet tiles, whatever. But like these pretend scenarios you've concocted, I won't do. And she got frustrated about it. She was like, you guys never play pretend with me, like blah, 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 blah. And we're like, yeah, because it sucks. But like, I decided I was going to dive in head first this week, right? I was like, I've been saying this for months and months and months, probably a year now, at least in my head. And then like to her when she started telling us like, you need to do this more. And I'm like, no. So I decided I'm going to dive in head first. I'm like, you're a lot older than when I developed this mentality. I need to grow and evolve and accept that maybe you've grown and evolved. And so she was like, nobody wants to play pretend with me. I was like, I want to play pretend with you. And she was like, she just was taken aback. She was like, Dad wants to play pretend with me? And I jumped in head first. And she's like, we're playing king and queen. I'm like, okay, where are the thrones? And she's like, beanbags are the thrones. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, grabs her baby doll and stuffs it up under her shirt. And she's like, I'm having a baby. And I'm like, oh, wow, you're having a baby. What's the baby's name? She's like, it's Aurora. And I grab a play phone. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I knew where she was going with this. It was Sleeping Beauty. And I'm like, this is King Stefan. Tell the whole kingdom a baby's been born. But don't tell Maleficent. And she like looks at me. And so the whole thing, I'm not trying to recap the whole pretend scenario, but she just looks at me with this gigantic smile and these eyes like, I can't believe this is happening. And all the like reservations I had about it by just jumping in head first instead of previously going in like, all right, like begrudgingly going in and being like, all right, I guess, what do you want to do? I'm like, no, I'm going to give it all my effort. And she just lit up like a Christmas tree.
That's awesome.
And so that was my win is she did that. And then tonight, before, after dinner, and then again after cleanup, we split it up. We did a tea party, and she actually had tea. Like my wife has a bunch of herbal decaf teas, and so she actually had tea. I was having a beer. We called it more of a brew party. But doing the same thing, and she was talking to me, and she's like, "So, what's concerning you?" And I was like, "Let me tell you, we are in Florida, girl, and there is a hurricane coming, and I don't think it's going to touch us, but it is just going to mess up my hair." And my hair was like, I hadn't showered from the gym yet, and I just like threw my hair out, and again, she just lights up, and I'm like, all right, this is a thing. She wants to play pretend. I can't say I'm going to do it every time, but there have been a lot of times where I would say, I can't right now because I didn't want to, and I could wash dishes or clean the litter box or get other things done in that time period. And just jumping in, with both feet and all my earnesty, it has clearly made a difference to her. And so that's definitely my win.
Question, was she as like strict, or was she, because of your energy level, did she go with your creativity more?
So I went in with energy, but I went in, and I think I saw this. I'm so bad at this. I saw this on TikTok, and I'm not going to be able to like credit the person because I just like saw it, put it in my brain, and was like scroll.
Yeah.
But I saw somebody talking about, and it was a therapist. I think it was a child psychologist or something, talking about what he did with his kids, and like not asking a lot of questions, like not asking what am I supposed to be doing, not making, just letting them sort of go. And so I'm just like, all right, I'm here, and letting her go, and then sort of following her lead, more like an improv scenario. She is much better at it now because she's almost 5. She's a few months away from being 5. And so like she's so much older now that she can go with it and have more of a conversation, and less like she's created this whole scenario in her head and all the pieces need to align like she's making a diorama or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's better, but her energy is better because she doesn't feel like she's dragging the other person along, which nice. I will say, I think everybody, my mom, my mother-in-law, my wife included, feel like they get dragged along. My wife doesn't get dragged along anymore because she's just like, no. She's still in the no camp because I'm taking it for the team, and that seems to appease my daughter plenty. For right now. It's been a few days. We've had 2 or 3 instances of this, but she seems to like it, and it's been one of those where I was a little bit later getting on tonight because I had more dishes to wash, and I had to clean the litter box, and I had to do some stuff because I was like, let me dive into this tea party.
Got it. Nice. Well, that's like a much more fun win than mine, but we talked a lot on this podcast about our toddlers and eating and how annoying dinner can be sometimes. So tonight for dinner, I cut up some chicken, cooked it in a pre-made like butter chicken simmer sauce, and I also made some pierogies. And I also threw some peas into the chicken so that there's like a vegetable component. So my daughter, nice. On her plate, I put 2 pieces of chicken. Then I cut it up, so she had like 20 little pieces of chicken. And this is not a lot of chicken, so she has 2 like chunks of chicken, like that you would get in a restaurant. And I was like, because she was like, I want salt and vinegar potato chips. And I said, okay, when you eat your 2 pieces of chicken, you can have 2 potato chips. And so she ate her 2 pieces of chicken, had her 2 potato chips, and she's like, I want another potato chip. And I was like, well, then I want you to eat another piece of chicken. We went 6 for 6, and nice. That worked out pretty well. So I'm going to say that was a win because it was, I'm not going to call it compromise. I'm going to call it negotiation. And I feel like I came out ahead. Yeah, in terms of,
absolutely.
Who outsmarted who there. However, I also mentioned last week, and this dives into my loss, that or whenever we talked about it. My daughter today both girls started like the fall term at preschool.
Okay.
And I said that my older daughter, we chose the accelerated track because she hasn't napped there in like 2 years. I'd say 20 minutes cumulatively over the last 2 years. So we were like, okay, so we'll like bite the bullet, pay the extra charge, and she gets like 2 hours of STEM and like reading activities when like the rest of the class is napping. So the downside to that, stimulated. The downside to that is even though she doesn't nap, that we miscalculated the impact of like that calming time in her day. So like midway through
Yeah.
dinner, despite the fact that I was the one giving her the potato chips, she was giving me the tood. She was like,
Yeah.
"Stop talking, daddy. No, daddy. I don't want to hear it, daddy." And
Yeah.
anytime, and I was like, I am literally just eating my food. And she'd say, "Stop it, stop it. I said stop. I shouldn't have to tell you twice." And I'm like, I'm literally not doing anything. And she's like, "I don't like it." And I was like, I don't know what it is. You need to define the
Yeah.
pronoun before, like, so that you can use the shorthand. And she's just
Yeah.
like, got so mad. And like she was like a total a-hole all night, and I was just like, you know what, like and like in the middle of bedtime.
I will save $200 a month so fast.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
Don't
I was
hit me.
yeah, right. Just like in the middle of bedtime, my wife texted me because the baby was done nursing, and she was like, "Do you want to switch?" And I was like, well, she's still in the middle of her meltdown, and like hasn't even like we haven't even started the process. And she's like, "It's okay. I feel like you're over it." And I was like, one, okay, yeah, I am totally over it. I'm totally over this kid
Sure.
right now. But
Yeah.
like, to be fair, I did nothing. I was a victim tonight. Like, I'm not just over
Yeah.
it because I was just like, I was attacked. Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I get it. I've had enough of those scenarios where like
Yeah.
even if my wife or I are remaining calm and we're weathering the storm and
Uh-huh.
we're gentle parenting our hearts out and it's not that kind of night,
Yeah.
that reprieve is nice. That reprieve just being like, hey, I'll go weather the storm. You take a break
Yeah.
is definitely
I will say
beneficial, but
I will say I did most of the night exhibit gentle parenting well. At one point, I yelled, "What's wrong with you?" because she put all her weight on her baby sister, and so like I got really mad. But in
yeah.
the middle of her meltdown, um, I just said, "You know what? I'm opening this door. I am leaving your room. I'm going to my room. You cry it out, and when you're calm, you call me, and I'll come back." And I, just effed around on my phone a bit, which is
Yeah,
another addiction I have. So anyway,
sure.
yeah. What about your loss?
So my loss is also sleep related, but not in the same way. So it's probably been about 10 or 11 straight days where one or both of my kids has gotten out of bed in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been killing my sleep. And it came to a head on Sunday night, this Tuesday, so 2 nights ago, where I went to bed at a reasonable, 9:45, 10 o'clock. I have a 6 a.m. alarm. Like I was all set up for 8 hours to feel great. My son, I'm starting to drift off to sleep. My son comes out at 10:20, so I have to put him back. And the process that we do, I sing him a lullaby to get him to stop crying because he's calling for my wife. And so I have to pick him up, and he's usually upset about that. But I sing him a lullaby. He's calm within a couple minutes. I lay him on the bed, awake, and then I lay down 5 minutes, usually leave. Well, he wasn't going back down. He wasn't going back down, and he wasn't going back down. He was calm, but he just kept like peeking over and looking at me,
Mm-hmm.
peeking over and peeking over. And so eventually, about like 11 o'clock, he falls asleep. I go back in. 12:30, dude comes back. And meanwhile, I go back in there and my daughter's crying. And I'm like, why are you crying? And she's like, I had a bad dream. And I can't like I couldn't even get that out of her really though, because I was like, what's going on? Why are you crying? And she just wouldn't stop, like laying in her bed, but whimpering. And she wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
stop whimpering to save her life. And I was like, what's going on? Like, tell me so I can help you. Like,
Right.
I don't know what's happening. Are you in pain? Like, I'm feeling her forehead, nothing. I'm like,
Hmm.
what's going on? And I think she just had one of those bad dreams that, like, gets your adrenaline up so much, but you're still tired, and it just, like, shakes you, even if you don't remember the specifics. I ended up having to carry her out of the room to calm her down so that her brother could go back to sleep. Well, my wife ends up coming out because it wakes her up. She ends up putting my daughter back down. We both go back to sleep. 40 minutes later, homeboy comes out again. Like, I go back in, my daughter's still crying about the
Oh my.
dream. And so it was just back and forth and back and forth. And because I spent a lot of time laying on the floor of their room, my Apple Watch says I got like 6 hours and 45 minutes of sleep. And I call
Mm.
shenanigans on that. Like, because I'd go back in, I'd lay in my bed and I'd be really still, and it'd take me like 20 minutes to fall back asleep or something. And so I was just exhausted. And like at the breakfast table, I was calm, but I was like, I ate my breakfast in the kitchen away from everybody because I was like, if somebody looks at me wrong, I might yell at them. Like, I'm so mad and I'm so like tired. And so it was just one of those where like I eventually what we decided is they have a white noise machine, but they also have like a little doggy alarm clock for them.
Hmm.
And the alarm clock doesn't make noise. What it does is the dog is holding this little ball, and the ball is red when you turn the alarm on, when you set the alarm at night, and then it turns green when the alarm goes off.
Oh,
It doesn't make
that's how
sound, but
it
the
is.
ball turns
Yeah.
green. And so my daughter can recognize if she wakes up and she sees it's green, it's her cue that she can come out. Like it's morning time and it's okay. And then after 30 minutes, it turns off. So she knows if it's off, barring a power outage, it's also okay. And she's just overslept by more than 30 minutes. Well, we figured that this was really bright. And so maybe it was keeping my son up and waking him up and all that. So we turned that off. And we're just hoping that our daughter is able to use context clues, like it being pitch black outside, that she should not be coming out of her room. And we tried that last night. Nobody came out. I actually got sleep, but it had
Nice.
been not that bad as Sunday night, but it had been once or twice a night, every single night, waking me up in the middle of the night and just killing 30 to 45 minutes of my sleep between putting them down, laying on the floor, and getting myself back to sleep, kind of thing. And then just like sort of listening with one ear open to make sure they were actually down. So yeah, that was my loss, but hopefully we'll see how it goes. I'm eagerly awaiting a text message that things are going haywire.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I came down here before we started recording, I already had my earpods in, but since there was no sound, I could hear what was happening. I may or may not have heard the baby crying, and my thought was, you know what? I've already descended into this um, podcast studio that I call my office, and my wife can handle it. But she doesn't listen anyway, so she's not going to hear this
Yeah,
confession.
right,
So I'm good.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a special subscriber perk.
yeah,
You
exactly.
get assistance with bedtime. No, but yeah. So hot take time. Hot take time.
Let's
So we haven't
do
really
it.
discussed exactly how we're going to do it. We each have a list of hot takes. We're going to go for a little bit, and then I know we're gonna, just cut it off so we don't run forever because I think we could go forever.
We
Just
could.
sort of see where the conversation takes us. Do you want to start, or do you want me to
Takes
start?
us.
That's the question.
You know what? I'll go first. I think so. This one, it is a take. It is one that my wife and I both agree on.
Okay.
I don't think it's like controversial, but it's gonna PO a lot of people, piss a lot of people off. Whatever. It's too hard to say PO a lot of people
Okay.
off. Anyway, yes. All right. Doing a social media challenge that embarrasses your kid into tears for likes is dumb.
You mean like the Jimmy Kimmel, like take their candy kind of thing?
No, like there's one that my wife saw the other day where parents are literally smashing eggs on their kids' heads until they cry and then filming it and getting likes. They're
Oh,
smashing.
that's
Yeah.
messed up. The only version I've seen that, but the only version I saw was this little girl who was sitting there like with maybe a mom and an aunt. It was two similarly aged women, and she's standing at the counter, and they've got their eggs, and they're about to break them in the bowl. And one of the women smacks it over her head, and she just looks at her and goes, "That wasn't nice," and takes her egg and smacks her right back.
Yes.
And then takes the other person's egg and smacks them, and I'm like, good on you, little girl.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm really glad that kid got revenge. Yeah. But like the fact that there are parents on the internet like exposing their children to raw eggs for like what, a like button? Like you know what? Your kids, you don't deserve your kids. All right. What's your take?
Okay. That is not controversial to me. I mean, I am the type of person, and you know this about me. Obviously, we don't say our kids' names here on the podcast, but I rarely post any pictures of my kids on social media. Yeah. I will go into that, I'm sure, on some episode at some point about why. But yeah, I mean, like, so obviously that is way out of there for me of posting a video embarrassing my kids on social media. But yeah, that's pretty mean-spirited.
Yeah, I've definitely cut back on the amount that I post about my kids because, again, I read an article, probably a similar one you did, about how, if you post too much without like your kids' consent, essentially, that by the time they are old enough to make the choice to join social media themselves, their whole entire persona has already been over the internet. So
that's pretty much the entire reason we don't do it. Yeah. There's some other reasons that it's like, instead of trying to find a middle ground or something, especially because we have so many grandparents that live so close and have access to be regularly taking pictures, it's like drawing that line with everybody is like, it's a lot easier to make the line nothing than it is to say, this is okay, this isn't okay. And then like our moms are friends on Facebook. So if they see something like, well, why was this okay? And why wasn't that okay? And like, we don't want to get into it. So that's the secondary reason. But yeah, that's it. It's like you can develop a kid's persona on social media without their knowledge, without their consent, and just sort of misrepresent their personality. Maybe that doesn't sound like a big deal to some people.
Yeah,
do your thing. But
and right now, pretty much, like I don't have any like hard and fast rules. I just kind of like use my judgment on what I think is a post that isn't necessary. Like, yes, my kid is the subject of the post, but it's more about like what I'm doing with them necessarily than like cultivating their persona. Like, that's that to me. That's like that's the middle ground in my mind.
A case in point, I see all the time when your youngest, has another month birthday.
Yeah,
you or your wife will post something. Right. She's got her stuffed sloth with the little sticker and all that stuff, and it's
you're like, watching the growth.
Okay, like that's a very common like. Yeah. This kid's 11 months. I can't believe she's 11 months. She's doing this. She's doing that, and it's like more of like a life update than it is a thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So my first hot take. All right. I don't know how spicy this is going to be or if this is going to rock some people's worlds. Okay. I don't know if anybody's ever thought about this. Car seat expiration dates are a racket. Okay? I deal with this all the time with two kids we're talking we need 8 car seats between ourselves and our mothers. And so we need 8 car seats for all the kids because, like, we have had early in my daughter's life, we had way too many instances of having one car seat with like 3 bases and like the kids one place and the car seats across town. And we're like, we're not doing that. So like we have car seats for all this stuff. My son just recently upgraded to a bigger car seat that is reversible. He's still rear facing, but it can go forward facing, and it's a little bigger because he's a big dude and he was outgrowing it. But he was using the infant seat that my daughter used that we got used a year old from somebody else. And the thing I think about like expiration dates, I'm not going to sit here and say that car seats last forever, but this finite thing that all of a sudden it's not like a tub of yogurt where you open it up one day and it's fine, and then the next day you open it up and it's got mold. Right. Like whatever the rationale that people use, whether it's, oh, the plastic will deteriorate because it's being exposed to the sun, or, yes, if you've been in an accident and the integrity of the structure is compromised, get a new car seat. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is like this whole idea that all of a sudden a car seat becomes absolute garbage after 5 years is a racket for big car seat manufacturers to make money. I think it's entirely, they are hedging themselves against lawsuits, because if something happens with the car seat and you're out of expiration date, they can say you weren't supposed to use it. I get that. But I think it's entirely a liability thing on their end. And I 100% believe that like a car seat does not go bad nearly as quickly as they make it out to be.
You know what? I love this take, not necessarily because I agree with it. I haven't decided yet if I agree with it. But what I love about it is that you are going after big car seat. And you know what? Someone has to. So is this is this the correct line of fire? Not sure. But I'm really glad you're taking this on behalf of all
I don't know if our audience, I don't know, we'll see. I may because when I'm chopping up this episode, I may end up making, the intro to all of our things into just do a whole series of reels, TikToks, you name it.
Nice.
See what gets the most attention. But we'll see how it goes. So
okay.
What's your next one?
Okay.
I want to hear some more spicy ones.
Okay. I don't think so. This one's going to offend possible listeners. Not sure if they're listeners, but it might offend them. All right. If you're sending me
randomly find our videos on social media, yes.
Sure. If you're sending me a picture of a kid who is older than the age of 5, and I am not related to this kid, then they better be doing something funny or cool, or else don't send me the stinking photo. Case in point, if your kid is over 5 years old and they are just like standing there, picking their nose, looking at something funny, not doing anything of any import other than standing up because they're a 5-year-old, I don't need a hashtag legendary. I don't need an, oh my God, this is just something I don't need. Because your kid is too old to be cute and too young to be like clearly doing anything of value to me. Just if you want to post that on social media, I might like it. I don't need a special text. Thanks.
Yeah, I get that. I very firmly fall into the camp. Like I always work from the assumption in my life that like nobody else wants to see my kid as much as I want to show off my kid. And I'm probably wrong, and I probably hedged too far on it. But like I operate from that perspective where it's like, yeah, I like looking at pictures of like your kids and our other friends' kids and stuff like that. But at the same time, like if they're like, and every now and then, like I'll peruse through an album of photos, if there's like a shared album of stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, I got enough stuff going on with my own kids that I'm not going to be sitting there consuming a ton of other kids' content. That's not going to butter my bread.
But again, like if it like I'm not saying don't send me anything, just like make it worth my time. You know what I mean? Like
first day of school, make it some milestone birthday party,
like literally
like that. Yeah,
literally like standing there and you're like unsure if the kids like a candid photo where they're doing literally nothing. Like I don't care. I
don't experience that a lot from kids of like that age. But I would be fired up if it happened to me for sure.
Thank you. All right, you.
So I'm going to continue my trend of going off on big companies, big production companies.
Okay.
And this one may trigger some people. It may even trigger you.
Okay.
I don't know. But baby purees are a racket.
Okay.
We talked about this in feeding our kids. There's two parts to this, right? Like I fed my kids, and I'm not trying to get into the whole thing of like, I did it this way, it worked, and therefore it's right. But there is a mountain of evidence in the baby-led weaning universe that suggests that like kids, you shouldn't really be feeding your kids until they have the ability to chew things that are soft. And by soft, I mean avocados, bananas, like literally you can gum it down, even if your kids don't have a full set of chompers. roasted sweet potatoes, stuff like that. I think feeding them purees is unnecessary. But the twofold of it is, one, it is not hard to put fruits and vegetables in a blender and a food processor. So going and getting jarred food, like if you're not eating fruits and vegetables for yourself, cook them, roast them, blend them, give them to the kid. If you're dead set on like this kid needs purees.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think that's true though. My take is that the kid just needs like soft foods, yogurts, applesauces are fine, like things that already come mushy. But like I think I'm not going to say it definitely sets kids back on eating, but I just think it's an unnecessary step. Even if it doesn't set kids back, I think just give them what you have. And again, based on my experience, it's like my kids will start eating it. They'll even eat like tender chicken when they were little babies. And yeah, you watch them. I'm not saying that there's absolutely no choking risk, but if that's the kind of food they're eating all the time, they get a lot better at it a lot quicker. And you just keep your finger ready to fish hook them if you need to. And I probably did that this many handful of times with both my kids combined. And then they figure it out. They're like, that sucked. I don't want to do that again. So I'm just going to eat the food like I'm supposed to.
So I don't necessarily disagree with this take. I just want to say that where purees helped us out is when we first started feeding our oldest, where like the bought purees kind of helped us was like just kind of being like more creative on like what flavors can kind of like go together and kind of like seeing like we like went and bought because they were like $1 each, like they had like 8 different flavors. And that was just a really good way without buying like all those fruits individually to like see what our daughter liked. And then I made my own and like gave it to her. But it was simply like just this is a much faster way for me to like also come up with like some different, or like not have to come up with like crazy.
I'll tell you this. You want to stick it. You want to stick it to big puree. Walk in the grocery store, look at the aisle, take a picture, take it home. There you have all the ideas. You didn't spend the money and you don't need the puree. Dice up the food that you're going to roast anyway. Stick it in the freezer. And then you can roast individual things and save it. I stand by this 100%.
That's fine.
There are ways around it. I get that there is some convenience to it, but I'll even go so far as to say like it makes it harder. Forget on the kids. On you that you got to sit there with a spoon and feed them versus a kid picking up chunks of avocado and eating them themselves, and I can focus on eating my dinner, and I don't have to worry about what that kid's doing. Maybe they're a mess, but I'd strip my kids down to their diaper and then just bathe them. That's it for me.
Again, I wasn't like defending Big Puree. I was just simply saying. Okay, I was defending my defense of Big Puree. Okay, not them directly.
I'm not defending Big Puree. I'm just a consumer.
Yeah, well,
it's okay. I bet you have car seats too, don't you?
I do. I just need to be like you and strap my kids on the top of the car and go.
Mitt Romney's dog.
Yeah, the Romney dog way. Let's do it.
Yeah, there you go. No,
Okay.
No. My kids do use car seats for anybody out there thinking about calling child services, and anybody thinking that they're going to catch me with an expired car seat. Mine currently actually aren't.
Nice.
So yeah.
Nice. You got them. All right. Here we go. This is a semi-call back to a previous episode, but like I really just need to. I figured out how to put it into words. Here you go. Get upset, people. Not recognizing and admitting that your kid is flawed isn't being blinded by love for them, but your own arrogance.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you gotta admit that kid sucks. Like sometimes, sometimes your kid sucks. Sometimes your kid's having a meltdown and telling you to stop stuff that you didn't even know you were doing.
Yep. Boys will be boys is not a thing. Just like going to throw that out there. As a boy who has been a boy, it's not a thing. That is just us enabling bad behavior because, frankly, like that's what society has done to women for millennia. So just be honest like if your kid is having a bad day, like you're not a bad parent because of that. But if you're ignoring the fact that your kid could use some improvement, it's going to have negative impact them down the line, and like that's your own arrogance.
Yeah.
You're not blinded by
Well,
love.
they're not getting the feedback early on. You can nip the
Yeah,
behaviors in the bud, but then all of a sudden
there you go.
you got a 13, 14, 15-year-old who's exhibiting something related to that behavior, and you didn't do anything when you had a chance. No,
Yep.
I'm 100% on that. Like,
Let's do it.
it's kind of the same way. Like, I have a very similar reaction. Like, you talk about when your kid, has something happen to her at school, like another kid pushes her or hits her or bites her or something, and your like first reaction is like, was she being annoying? Like,
Yeah.
like I have the
Yeah.
same thing. I have
Yeah.
the same thing where it's just like this happened, and I'm like, I
And
know you.
right.
Like,
And again,
you push buttons.
and the truth is, I also know my kid, and like I'm not surprised at all that of the 20 times I've had to ask that question, it's always been no. But
Yeah.
like I'm still like I'm aware that
It's
she
worth asking.
you know what I mean? Like
Like,
she could have done
I
something
don't
wrong.
have a perfect little angel
Yeah.
in a sea of
Yeah.
flawed kids. Like, I am not
Yeah.
so much better at this than anybody else. I'm just a little bit better.
Right. Exactly. All right. You go.
Okay. I'm going to stick with the diet thing.
Okay.
But no, I'm done hammering home on big purees or big companies. But being overly strict with your kid's diet is a bad thing.
Yes.
Not like it can be a bad thing. It is a bad thing.
I actually can
about this.
I just want to say I almost put that down as one of mine, but like
yeah,
I was actually like my example, like I thought might have like offended you too much, not because you do it, but because you have chosen said diet for yourself before. But go ahead, and then I'll get into it. Like
go ahead. Say
like,
your thing. Say your
so
thing.
like I know a guy from work a bunch of years ago where him and his wife like decided that they were going to be vegan, and they're vegan. So then they had a kid, and they're like, my kid's going to be vegan, and it's like I feel like making that choice for a like newborn. One, like in that scenario, you're immediately like going to formula and you're not doing breast milk, right? Because like by vegan, wouldn't that like if it comes from the mom?
Listen, you know what? Everybody. You know what? That's. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even that. Like, I will say this. I'm not offended by that variation of the take, but basically where I was going with it isn't even that. Like, I understand if you've got home values, like there are things that are important to you in your home and what you want to do. Mm-hmm. As far as like vegan, I think a vegan lifestyle more often than not is usually like a value thing, and like there are some cases where people are choosing it purely out of health. But I get that. It's sort of like raising your kid with your own religion until they can decide for themselves, right? Like until they can make those value judgments for themselves. I get that. Where I'm actually going is like the people that are just like, my kid can't have absolutely any sugar. They would never get salt and vinegar eating pieces of chicken. Like they have to be eating all organic, all whole foods, like all the time. It always has to be like the fanciest schmanciest stuff. And there are people who I remember, my daughter's gone like some variation of trick-or-treating, not really door-to-door, still too young to that, but like going to like my mother-in-law's church or going to like a neighbor's place and like going like 2 or 3 houses, up and down the street kind of thing. And we've had people that have kids the exact same age and just like no candy. Like you can go trick-or-treating for the experience, but you absolutely can't have it. And I'm not over here advocating that you let your kid go to town like they're a 15-year-old and they can deal with the repercussions of feeling like crap the next day. I'm not saying that, but like letting your kid, have a piece or two of their Halloween candy after dinner for a couple weeks is not going to kill them.
Agreed.
And letting them have some chips is not going to kill them. And like my wife on Saturday took the kids out and they had pizza and ice cream because that's what my daughter asked for and what she wanted. And like my wife was like, okay. And I think that having that open mind, that there's a balance to be struck, that I'm not saying like make that the whole of your kid's diet, but I'm saying give them a variety of foods because I think just in the same way, and this has been proven in adults over and over again, that people that are trying to eat healthier and lose weight and get in shape, when they have overly restrictive diets of this is good and this is bad, that they are much more likely to fail at those diets because when they have a craving for something, they feel like they are morally obligated to not go grab the Snickers bar or the slice of pizza or whatever it is the thing is. And I think that you are starting that, and it can lead to eating disorders and terrible relationship with food. And I think you're starting that potential trauma that much earlier by telling kids that this is a bad food and this is a good food versus teaching them the concept of moderation. Like, no, we can't go get Taco Bell or KFC or McDonald's every single night. But if you want a Happy Meal on the second Saturday of every month, that's your thing. Get them a Happy Meal. Like, give them a variety and let them sort of satisfy those cravings and have that healthy relationship.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you there. That's a much more reasonable interpretation of said take than mine. I agree. Normally we actually ran out. And haven't bought any more yet, but like I'd say for the last year, my daughter has had a single Oreo on her dinner plate for every meal, and she never asks for dessert, never asks for anything. Like, we don't treat it like it's anything special. She's just like, I want my Oreo with dinner. And that's like, if that's the first thing she eats, she still eats her food. If it's the last thing she eats, it's entirely up to her. But like, she doesn't overindulge by any means, and like, one Oreo is not going to kill her. So, I mean, I'm totally with you there.
Yeah. That actually reminds me, we did have a listener write in, so to speak, a friend of ours with his parenting hot take that regular Oreos are better than double stuffed Oreos.
Oh, yeah.
And to that I say, okay. Like, that's really all I got there. Like,
can I also...
get regular Oreos, get regular. I'm like, I don't eat Oreos enough to like Oreos are fine to me. I'm more of a chocolate chip guy, but hey,
So here's what I'm going to say. That same friend, not to totally bash on him, but he also believes that Pop-Tarts without frosting are better than Pop-Tarts with frosting. So.
Oh man.
I don't.
Like there are 8 billion people on the planet, and you have found the one fact other than his like name and address that will singularly identify him as himself, because no one else believes that.
I know. He's insane. And you know what? He deserves to be punished for it. So there you go.
We'll put his address in the description.
We should.
And his telephone number.
It needs to end.
Get after him on that. Yeah. Frost your Pop-Tarts. Don't even frost your, just buy them. They come with the frosting. I'm about to say frost your Pop-Tarts. No, just like for the same price, get the frosting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's okay to get the frosting. That's not even a hot take. That's like a lukewarm
just a fact. Yeah. All right. Second one. This one's kind of up a different alley. It's kind of geared toward a different generation of parents, but it's actually also, I guess it could impact millennial parents too. But here's the take. Unless it's the ability to video chat with your grandparent, being jealous of anything your kid has is not only selfish, it's just stupid. And let me tell you why.
I want an example of this, or whatever.
Okay. So, I know an adult who, instead of being happy for the successes of her children, she is jealous of them. She also will, complain about things that they got, which, again, as the parent, so where I call it stupid is if you don't want your kids to have X, Y, and Z, don't give them X, Y, and Z. Don't be jealous that they have X, Y, and Z. That could be a toy. That could be an ability. That could be, I don't know, just like a level of autonomy. If you are going to get mad at your kids because of how you yourself raised them, it is stupid. And then the selfish part is it's like you should want your kids to be better than you. You should want your kids to take your life and improve upon it. Like to
When they're
me,
arguing with you at 3 years old, because then you're like, stop being better at me already. Like, I
sure,
wanted
yeah,
more of
like
a head start.
yeah, sure, yeah, like I come here and I complain to you about it, but I am so jazzed that my daughter is already smarter than me and better at taking me down. It keeps me on my toes. Like to get today, my win, I don't know if you caught it, but at the end I was bragging about how I think I outsmarted her. 34-3. But I am still excited that I outsmart her because I'm feeling successful that I am doing the thing that I'm just saying is what a good parent should do. You should want your kids to be better than you. You should never be jealous over what your kids have that you do not. And again, the stupid part is you probably gave them to the kid anyway. So if you don't want your kid to have a car and you're like, oh my God, it's not spoiled. They like had a car when they were 16. Who the hell do you think bought them that car when they were 16?
Yeah, I hate holding that over them. Like,
yeah.
Because I think a lot of people might use it as a defense of like, I'm a good parent and you're ungrateful. It's like, well, if you're doing it like if you're doing something like that just for the gratitude and you're not receiving it, then like that's problematic, right? I think you should be doing a lot of those things for the joy that it brings your kids, and then like if you want them to be grateful, bring it up, but don't lord it over them for a long time.
But it's not even a gratitude point. It's just simply like being like jealous that they had it. Like not like, oh, you should be grateful because I bought you a car. It's just like, I never had a car. Like this is them being like, I never had a car growing up. So like it's really like I'm really jealous that my kids had a car growing up. And it's like if you're actually jealous about it, you shouldn't have bought them the stupid car. Anyway,
it's like such a backwards way to look at it. Like,
yeah,
you should be happy that you were able to build such a life that you were able to give your kids the things you didn't have. Like that, I don't know. That seems pretty basic.
So this was again, this is a maybe a targeted take, but definitely, I don't see it in a lot of millennial parents. That's what I'll say. Yeah. All right, you go.
All right, we're at about 47 minutes. I don't know how many more we got, so I'm gonna fire this one out there because I was saving it until I was nice and warmed up. Because this one is probably gonna get some people fired up. I post this on social media. There are gonna be a lot of people chirping at me, but I'm gonna qualify it. I think that as a society, and I specifically at least mean American society, because I don't know a lot about other societies on how they deal with this. But I think we as a society put too much stock in pediatricians. So what I mean from that is I think pediatricians are great. This is not me about to say that big pharma is bad, modern medicine's bad, and you should go live in the woods. I think that we have gotten ourselves to a point where we ask pediatricians questions on things that are outside of their domain and then treat them like an expert in that domain and ask them to have such a broad width of knowledge that they should not be, the primary person. And I would expand this to adults, right? So you could go back to the diet as a prime example, where like a doctor is going to be reading something that is whatever the modern day equivalent of like the food pyramid is, or some guidelines that are handed down from some scientific agency. And if you know me and you listen to our pregnancy and birth episode, I think that it's problematic to take the large data set and apply it to individual people. But I think that there are a lot of things when it comes to like behavioral change and nutrition and all those kinds of things that we defer to pediatricians. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong and don't get it twisted, that I think we should figure it out and tell the pediatricians what's up. I think you should be going to other people. If you have concerns about your child's diet, go to a nutritionist. If you have concerns about your child's behavior, go to a child psychologist, right? Like, I think we should be diversifying the level of experts that we use for our kids, because I think too many people, they'll be having a conversation about something that has very little to do with disease prevention, sickness prevention, curing diseases, and a lot of the things that the doctors are actually really good at, the pediatricians are really good at. And they'll be like, well, my pediatrician said this. And it's just like, when did we get to the point where we thought that that was the best resource for us to go to on that matter? Like, I think there are better, more specialized people. It's the same way that you go the other way. It's like, if God forbid you get cancer, you go see an oncologist or a specialist in that instead of a general practitioner. And I feel like with kids, aside from those extreme medical examples, a lot of times we take what the pediatrician is saying in a lot of avenues as gospel, when really they're just kind of like, they've got some general knowledge that they're passing along, and you really should be seeing a specialist. And they may not, depending on who your care provider is, that like it takes a lot of hubris to be a doctor. And I don't mean that in some negative thing, but to be like, I can have someone's life in my hands and I'm confident in my ability to handle that situation. That there's just a level of confidence there. And I think that that can easily transcend into giving advice that is not necessarily in the heart of their domain.
Before I respond to your take, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
What's the difference between God and a doctor?
More letters. I don't know.
God doesn't think he's a doctor. Okay, anyway. So your take was spicy. However, when you explained the take, it was actually,
Yeah.
pretty well thought out thing.
I want to have the TikTok person. The comments are like,
yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, like, I think we're lucky in that our pediatrician is actually somebody who will say, like, I recommend you like see this kind of pediatric specialist for this. Let me look up some names. I'll find you one. Or I've like asked questions and they're like, honestly, like, I'm not sure I know the answer. I'm going to have to like do a little more research. And I might like, so we have a pediatrician that we really like, who's kind of like honest about like what she knows. But in general, I totally agree with you. I will say we do rely on like the pediatrician just kind of being like the first like phase. We don't put so much stock in that they're knowledgeable about everything, in that like they can't be, because like the pediatricians are literally just general practitioners for kids.
Right. For kids,
So like I'm with you. Your take got the reaction out of my face, but then you explained it and I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'll go and I'm actually just going to fire.
Can I one more thing about the pediatrician thing. And I would encourage people to do this. Like, when you're seeing a doctor, because it was something you said that sort of triggered this further thought on it too. Pediatricians know a lot about the body and about medicine and all that stuff. But even when you're in that domain, like, you also know your kid. And I'm not telling you to like override pediatric decisions, but I'll give an example here that like, I think too few people, and I think this could go into the pregnancy space. I think this could go into the general healthcare space, and it definitely goes to the pediatric space. People don't go in asking enough questions or asking for alternate solutions to see if there are any. They take whatever the doctor says and says, that's prescription, that must be what I have to do. And I'll give a prime example of this. A couple weekends ago, my daughter had an ear infection. And we took her to urgent care because it was a weekend and her pediatrician wasn't open. And my daughter is not allergic to antibiotics, but she has had a couple instances where whether she's had a sinus infection that we've treated with antibiotics or an ear infection that we've treated with antibiotics, where that will just clear out all of the good bacteria as well, and then she will get a UTI.
Yep.
And so I straight up asked, I think it was a physician's assistant, it may have been a doctor, I'm not sure, it was urgent care, it wasn't somebody I was familiar with. I asked them, they gave the prescription for the antibiotics, and I said, okay, she seems to be doing a lot better now that I've given her some Tylenol. Can I ride this out, and what do I need to look for before I give this? What is the, like, you absolutely have to give her this antibiotic? And she goes, listen, if her pain's fine and her fever's not going anywhere and you can manage the pain with pain relievers, you absolutely don't have to give her this antibiotic.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is I'll call it in so you have it, but you don't even have to pick it up for 7 days. And I use the Walgreens, and they've got an app, and they call me and text me and notify me relentlessly that I have the thing. Waited 3 days, gave my daughter some ibuprofen at night so that she could sleep. She got better, and I never had to give her antibiotics. But old me or new parent me probably would have gone in there, and that's how she got some of these UTIs, is like, oh man, she's sick. What should I do? Oh, it looks like an infection. Here's an antibiotic. Give her the antibiotic, clears out her system, and instead of the infection going away on its own, possibly, and I'm not saying that all infections go away on their own like that, but I ended up then having to deal with a UTI and keeping her out of school and getting on another antibiotic, and it became a little bit of a vicious cycle. And so I think going in and asking questions and asking alternatives and like seeing what your options are. Sometimes the doctor is not like sitting there ready to just be like, here are all the different things you could possibly do. And you have to be more proactive in those situations.
I'm with you. Similar situation. My daughter started like coughing a little more than normal on Friday. And then on Saturday night, after the cough persisted, she had a fever that spiked to 102.4, gave her some ibuprofen so she could sleep. Woke up, was still 102.4. It was a Sunday. It was Sunday. Today's Tuesday. Had to go to pediatric urgent care, and like similar things. They tested her for the big four: COVID, strep, flu, RSV. Negative for all of them. This fever just came out of nowhere. First thing I said was, "Hey, my daughter is allergic to amoxicillin." 2, she had strep throat within the last 60 days, and they gave her azithromycin. So I know she can't have that again. 3, the one time she was on Ceftonir, she's apparently one of the lucky ones who gets the transitory lactose intolerance that can be a side effect of Ceftonir, and that lasted for 8 weeks. So I was like, I realize that means if you had to give her one of the 3, it has to be Ceftonir. But is there any way we can avoid the fact that I don't want to buy Lactaid milk for the next 8 weeks? And, she was just like, I don't think we need to prescribe anything. And I was like, great. Boom. Let's make this happen all natural.
Aren't you guys like an almond milk household anyway?
No, not at all. I have high calcium right now. So I also just like oat milk and almond milk. So like since I have a lot of dairy in my diet anyway, like if I try to go for alternative milks for myself, but my wife and my kids, or kid, because the little one's still on the breast milk.
I could go off on a tangent. I'll talk to you offline about that because I have a follow-up question, but I don't think our listeners care that much.
All right, so I'm going to rally off 2 in a row because one's really fast. 1, school is not for sick kids. Okay, end of take. 2, all right.
Pay Ethan back.
Pay me back. All right, 2. All right, parents, usually boomer parents, who say, you and your siblings survived, so what's the problem? Actually weakens their point because they are setting their bar as parents as low as possible. Granted, things can happen. There are terrible tragedies that involve the death of your child. But if you are just saying, well, you made it, I couldn't have messed up, then like you really like went into parenting being like, don't kill them. That was like the bar you set. Congratulations. Good job. You know what? No, that's the bare minimum of parenting. I don't respect you. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, so we're right at an hour. I feel like, should this be the last one?
I've got 2 more.
Okay.
Well,
I'll try to make this quick. This is a plea to everybody. I know Ethan's going to agree with me, so maybe we don't have to have much discussion on this. But this is a plea to the entire world. Can we, as a society, stop acting like when we are having people having company over that our houses are not lived in? I am so tired of cleaning my house to the nth degree just to have a play date or just to have people over for dinner and be like, no, our half St. Bernard German Shepherd mix doesn't live here. We don't have a long-haired cat. Our kids never pull out a toy. Like, there wasn't a Cheerio smashed into the carpet earlier today. No, we live in a perfect, immaculate Martha Stewart magazine cutout. Like, I'm tired of it. I've never cared what somebody else's house looks like. Like, I've never looked, but everybody else seems to care, and I'm tired of it. Like, I think it's so dumb. Like, am I saying that, like, leave, like, actual crap or piles of dirty dishes in the sink? Maybe not, but, like, it's okay if the kids' toys are out. It's okay if the bed is not made. Like,
Oh yeah.
I am not inviting anybody over to my house to go in my bedroom anyway.
So agree with you 100%. We own it. People come over, we say, sorry, kids. Yeah, we clean the dinner table if, like, it's a dinner thing. We clean the room in which we're going to watch a sporting event if that's what it is. And by clean the room, I mean make sure the couch is sittable and that there's a place to put the beers. But to take off your take, making the bed is stupid. End of take.
My wife thinks it's very important, so my wife does it or it doesn't get done.
Great, because your wife is wrong, and if she wants to like dive into her wrongness by making the bed, she may.
Listen, the only caveat I will say is if the kids get in there and they're horsing around, and at nighttime I'm trying to go in there and find my sheet and my cover and I can't, I sometimes see the value of the bed being made, but I'm like, it takes me less time to find it than it does to make the bed, and so.
There you go. I'm with you. All right. This one's another kind of throwback, so it'll be another quick take, and then to my big one that I've been saving for last. All right.
Okay.
It's okay to dislike individual little kids because you can also dislike individual adults. Not all kids are great. And if you've got a kid that your kid knows, or it's even your kid, and you don't really like them, that's sad. But, like, not everybody's cool. And, like, it's okay to admit that. We don't all have to be perfect as parents. We don't all have to like each other's kids. We have to be nice. We have to be respectful. We have to be kind to kids. But, like, other kids stink. Sometimes they do. Sometimes other kids stink. And that's just, like, fair to say. I'm
going to take one off my list and add it to it, that it's okay, not all the time, but sometimes to not like your own kids. You can love them and care about them, and it's okay when they're throwing their little shit fit to be like, I don't want to be in your presence at all.
Yep, like I did earlier, like I literally did earlier tonight. It's okay to admit that doesn't make you a bad person. I just think that as parents we don't talk about it. All right, here's my big one, Alex. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you.
Okay.
You will never know if you were a good parent until your kid turns 50.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. There's a lot of parents who are like, wow, made it to 18. This kid's an adult now. You know what happens the day after they turn 18? They kill somebody. I'm just saying, you got to devote half a century.
What is happening?
No, all I'm saying is there are people who their kid walks out the door and they're like, I own this. And then you know what? 5 years later, they're like, oh man, I probably should have put in a little more effort before my kid was wanted for murder. I am just simply saying that so much can happen in that first half century a person's alive. And by the time, typical generations, you're probably roughly somewhere between 20 and 30 years older than your kid. So you know what? I realize that's a long chunk of time. Sometimes almost 2 of your current lifetimes of pre-child. But 50 years is what it takes to know if you got it right. That's my belief. No, if somebody says, are you a good dad? I'm going to say I'm trying to be. But the moment my daughter turns 50, she hasn't killed anybody then. I'm going to be like, you know what? She's not a murderer. Yeah. And I'm okay. I'm good. I did it. Yeah. She's the world's problem now. 50. That's what I'm calling it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I don't even know if I agree or disagree. I've never thought about that. I have never been what is the timeline for deciding you're a good parent? And I don't know. I put it at 50. I kind of ride with the assumption that I'll know it when I see it. But I don't know.
Sure. And there's going to be individual moments where you really feel like you did the job. Honestly, I'm giving people a cop-out at 50 because truthfully, you won't know until well beyond you've passed. Well, your kid has to pass. And if you guys end up in the same place, if that's something you believe, then you probably did a good job. But if you made it to the good place and they're in the bad place, whose fault is that? It's yours. It's yours.
All right. Well, I will bring us home with one final one that does not involve murder.
Sure. Sure.
So this one is maybe it's spicy, maybe it's less spicy. My big gun was the pediatrician one, but this one is I actually was on our TikTok feed stitching with somebody who agreed with I was agreeing with about sharing like as a blanket statement is not necessarily a virtue, and it's okay to teach your kids that they don't have to share all the time, that sharing is not yes, it's a beautiful thing to share, but if you have something and somebody else wants some, you are not absolutely entitled to have to share with them. But the premise of this that I actually disagree with, and his whole thing was, teaching his kids it's okay not to share. And I actually agree with that if you have something and you don't want to share, just as you're an adult, you're right. I even go so far as you don't necessarily have to share with your sibling unless it is something that is both of yours and belongs to both of you. But if it is your toy that was your present, you don't have to share with your little brother or your little sister or your older brother or your older sister. But this guy was talking about a scenario where his kids bring toys to the playground and don't want to share them. And while I agree that it's not a virtue to share, I think you are an absolute class A jerk if you allow your kids to bring their own toys to the playground.
Yeah.
It's a playground. There are toys there. It's a community playground thing. And when I see a kid sitting there with his little Tonka trucks in the way that other kids are trying to avoid and not trying to step on because he's using them on the stairs of the playground, all I can think about is who let this kid bring these toys? There are slides, there are monkey bars, there are all sorts of things to climb. The whole point of coming to the playground is to play with something different. Excuse me. And this is the first episode I haven't had a bottle of water, and now my throat's completely parched. But yes, if you your kid should not be bringing toys to the playground. One, because yes, it's going to create conflict. It's fine if you're okay saying I don't want my kids don't have to share, and you're okay dealing with potentially passive aggressive parents who do the thing of little Timmy doesn't want to share with you. His parents never taught him how to share. I don't care. Don't bring your own kids' toys to the playground. Not only are they in the way, but it's absolutely not the point of the playground. The only caveat and the exception I would make is if it's something like a ball. They have a soccer ball or a dodgeball or something that they are wanting to play with other kids, and it invites a community aspect, and it's not something that they're going to hoard, right? Yes, I will tell my kid that they don't have to, that kid with the Tonka trucks is not entitled to let them share. But I wish the Tonka trucks weren't there to begin with, because I think it's an absolute grade A dick move. And
you're basically setting your kid up, who has a problem sharing, to be a bad sharer in public. There's no reason for you to set that kid up. If you want to fight over something that's already at the playground, being it's my turn, no, it's my turn, I was waiting, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, you know what? That's just playground politics. Dog eat dog world. I'm with you. But if your kid's bad at sharing, don't bring something for them to hoard.
Even if they are, because then it's what if another kid runs away with it and you've got to corral it, and you're making more work for other parents, because anytime my kid picks up somebody else's toy, now I'm having to watch like a hawk that they take care of this thing like it's their own child, because yeah. I'll be damned if my kid's going to break their truck or their toy or whatever it is. But I'll even go so far as it's not just, I've made a lot of the Tonka trucks, or, having sort of little sets of toys that people are playing with. I saw a kid, there's a playground we go to, and we love it, especially in the summertime, because it's like a giant metal shed, and the walls have sort of been cut out, and they've got ceiling fans, so it's shaded completely. It's closed in by a fence, and it's a much cooler than all the surrounding area, but because it's closed in like a fence, it can be kind of tight quarters. There was a kid riding a hoverboard. One of the little things that, you put both feet on, and it's got the two wheels, and you go around, scoot around. It's like a Segway without the handle. That kind of thing. This kid was riding it around. He was 8 or 9, and just zooming around the playground with it. I'm like, this is no different than my kid bringing their bike. Like, what are we doing here, people? Your kid, I don't care what they like. If they want to bring it, then say we're not going. If you want to play with that, great. Go in the driveway.
I'm with you.
Don't bring it to the playground. All right.
I'm with you. Yeah, we don't need little Marty McFlies out there.
So I will say this. Guys, if you have hot takes, leave them in the comments. I would love to do an episode. We get enough people. I would love to do an episode where we read your hot takes. So please, we will send a call out, send out the bat signal. Yeah. Send in your hot takes, and we would love to read them, even if we don't agree with them. We will tell you we don't agree with them, but hey, we'd love to read them.
Even better, if you film yourself saying the hot take, we'll put you on the podcast.
Yeah, send it to workingatthedadpod@gmail.com. That's probably the easiest way to actually get us a video file that we can cut into the video, unlike YouTube comments, which are only text-based, and even responding with the video on social media. But yeah, feel free to reach out with videos, with audio files, whatever. Send those to us. But before we head out, it is time for Working on the Dad Bod segment.
All right.
So
I almost forgot.
Time to talk about progress. I can go ahead and go first. So
go for it.
Last week I was at 185.4. This week, I 185 even. So right near the mark, right on pace. Nothing terribly concerning there. But one thing that has been really cool for me, like one thing that I've started doing a lot more, and it has helped me just burn more calories and therefore eat more food. Now, it can sometimes be problematic. This morning, I really felt like I needed to go for like an actual 30-minute walk just to kind of clear my head. From some stuff. I worked out, I did a weightlifting session, and I was also implementing this idea of just taking more steps during the day. And I don't mean organized walks. I mean like when I'm heating up my leftovers in the microwave, walking around my house. When I'm chatting with someone text-based on the phone or looking something up on my phone, doing something like that, making sure I'm moving around my house. Because it can add 1,000 to 2,000 steps, which is roughly 100 calories burned for me. And so that adds to the amount of food I can eat. Today was a little bit much because I was almost choking down food to get to my calorie goal because I went over the 1,000 calorie burn mark, and it was just sort of like I ate my dinner and it was like, all right, you got 900 left. What are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to have a beer and a protein shake and some Cheez-Its and I'm just going to feel great. But yeah, I would say if you are struggling to feel like you need to just burn off a couple extra calories, like finding ways to walk around your office or your house a little bit more during the day, get those steps in, even if it looks kind of funny to other people. My wife at one point was like, "Are you okay? You're like moving, you're just like a pinball." And I'm just like, I'm just trying to move. I'm just trying to move. She's like, "Oh, yeah." Okay.
So, that's good. Happy for you. I had a week that
sounds like a that's great. Golf clap.
when we last recorded, I was 188.2. When I weighed myself today, I was 191. I contribute that to had a very salty couple of meals, like not just like it had a personality, but just like salt heavy. So there's a lot of retention there.
Yeah, you had a salty meal and your daughter's yelling at you.
That's right. Also had so last Friday, so we recorded Thursday, and then last Friday was actually my 10-year like work anniversary. And 10 years living here, I was just like thinking back on my life for the last 10 years, just where I was then, where I am now, a little heavier. That's the takeaway. And I just said to my wife, I kind of want to do something nice. I just want to do something nice. And she was just like, DoorDash some Cheesecake Factory cheesecakes. And I was like, oh yeah. So we, because we're paying the fee, we'll normally order like 2 pieces each. And like when we're very disciplined, we'll each like have like, usually I'll have like half of each piece.
Sure.
I want to, but still that's like, so between those 2 cheesecakes over the last 4 days, that was some unneeded calorie, and she ended up not being able to finish hers. So I really had like 3 pieces of cheesecake over the last.
Well, here's the fact of the matter is a 3-pound difference. Quick math, that's 10,500 calories. I'm guessing that a lot of that's water retention. I can't say the cheesecake isn't completely to blame, and I don't want everybody out there who's gaining weight to be like, it's just water.
Right.
But at the same time, like this is the same thing I was having, where a couple weeks ago I weighed myself and I was like 183.3, and then I hopped back on the scale and I was at 186, and I was down overall, but I was like really bummed because I'd seen that lower number, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember I absolutely housed water at dinner because I was really dehydrated, and now I'm back at a normal stasis, right? So it's
like I knew it would be it'd be a little higher today because of that. So it was completely avoidable, but like I was feeling I wanted to celebrate myself.
Indulgences are important, and I think part of the journey is like having the indulgence, eating what you want, and then finding that level of like satisfaction. It's a tough thing that I still often struggle with, where it's just like pizza is usually my vice, where it's just like I can down way more slices well past the point where I'm full, and I just want to keep finishing it, and so that I get that. So.
Yeah, and again, tasted great. Like obviously, I'm not a spokesman for Cheesecake Factory, but if you really just want a piece of cheesecake that hits, DoorDash and Cheesecake Factory is like a solid move.
Yeah, I mean it's literally that's where they make cheesecakes. It's the factory.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm gonna be honest. The best cheesecake I've ever had is still to this day my dad's cheesecake. He makes a great cheesecake, but if you want like I'm a cheesecake purist, so one of my slices. What? Oh no, my dad is not. He's not. I'm sorry.
Well, there you go. It's not readily available unless he's going to freeze it in dry ice and ship it across the country.
Maybe for my birthday, I'll give him one of these faces.
I just gave you an idea, and your dad's going to be like, your dad listens. Your dad's going to be mad.
He always. That's one of the. That's one of the. You better make it when I'm in town for Thanksgiving kind of things. Like if it's not at the table, I won't be at the table. So
nice. Nice. Yeah. I love that. That's a whole different topic, but I'm so like I am team like let's get weird for Thanksgiving. Like
I mean let's do
non-conventional things.
Yeah.
Nobody
so I will I will just say that like for what Thanksgiving really changed when I went off to college, because it then was like, all right, there's like the traditional Thanksgiving food, and some of it, let's be honest, isn't great in general. So Thanksgiving became like half traditional Thanksgiving food, and then what's everything you missed while you were gone. So now it's like it's always like my favorite things. So
I like that.
Yeah. Well, everybody, we did the spiel, but thank you for trying something new with us. We really thought this would be fun, and just like a little less, like formal, like our normal topics. So thanks for being here.
Canceled. Thanks for joining us on this ride. It's been fun.
It has been. And as always, thanks for working on the Dad Pod with us. I'm Ethan. That's Alex. Have a good night, everybody.
See you guys.
Thanks for working on the Dad Pod with us. Any resources that we mentioned during the show will be in the show notes. If you have questions, thoughts, or just want to talk with us, the best place is in the comments on YouTube. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at Working on the Dad Pod, and on Twitter at Working on Dad Pod. Following and subscribing is always appreciated. Please rate and review us. That helps get the show to new people. And if you know a dad who would enjoy our show, sharing it with them is a huge help to them and us. Have a great week.